Catherine Conley.
Cuasaí Iompar nGaillimh Aire agus tá sagam go bhfuil an taithí agat ar cuasaí tráchta nGaillimh agus spannin sé go sondrach leis an abhreight nua atá bartia. Maidir leis a light rail agus an staidir féidireachta agus maidir leis an tabhreight nua atá a bartia ó híomh cuasaí Iompar de nGaillimh.
Thank you, Deputies. I understand the National Transport Authority expects to engage support services later this year to undertake the review of the Galway Transport Strategy and commence the review process at the end of the year. The review will be led by the NTA in cooperation with Galway City Council and Galway County Council. The review process will include consideration of all potential transport modes, including light rail. As part of the strategy review work, assessment work will be undertaken in relation to light rail, and as I've noted previously, this approach will allow for a multimodal perspective and integration within an overall land use plan. The NTA expects to publish a draft updated transport strategy for Galway for public consultation in Q3 of next year. I agree with the Deputy that on the need to increase sustainable mobility options in Galway and to consider the merits of light rail as part of those options. We need to shape the city around public transport rather than roads. The review of the Galway transport strategy will look at population projections, development density, employment forecasts and travel demand patterns, and this analysis will be used to reassess the public transport needs across the city and the potential roles all modes of transport, including light rail, can play in meeting those needs. And in the meantime, implementation will continue on the current Galway transport strategy, and this includes the Galway Bus Connects programme with key elements like the Salmon Weir Bridge, Cross-City Link and the Dublin Road corridor advancing. Further projects include the rollout of improved active travel infrastructure, the redevelopment of Cant Station and the improvements planned for Oranmore Station and the rail track infrastructure.
Thank you, Minister, and I welcome some of the improvements that are taking place, albeit belatedly. You know that Galway is going under with traffic, one of the most beautiful cities in the country, thriving in terms of employment, but absolutely bogged down in traffic. And you know as well as I do that if I was to show you the photograph of reports, it would almost go halfway up to the ceiling in my 17 years there. We had smart travel that was anything but smart. We had the Buchanan transport study, and here we are in 22. And you were there with me when we unanimously put in Park and Ride in 2005, never to be rolled out. Never rolled out, Minister. So here we are with the National Transport Authority now telling us that they're just looking at the east side of the city in their latest response to me. Actually, every time I ask a question, the situation seems to get worse and deteriorate without any recognition of the urgency to take bold, brave steps in relation to Galway City and roll it out as a green, lean city. And the first thing is a feasibility study on light rail.
Thanks, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Deputy. And I have to say I agree with you in relation to the Park and Ride and the absolute urgency to be identifying these sites if we want to encourage people out of their cars and to use public transport. I understand that the NTA are developing that Park and Ride strategy for Galway and will be presenting it to Galway City Council and Galway County Council in July. In relation to a feasibility study for light rail in Galway, that will be carried out as part, as you well know, I'm sure, Deputy, the review, it will be carried out as part of the review of the strategy, and it will be considered within the overall framework of the strategy itself, and this will allow for a multimodal perspective and integration within an overall land use plan. Thank you.
There is no sense of urgency with the NTA, absolutely none. We're now in 22 and they're slowly looking at Park and Ride on one side of the city when the elected members back in 2005 said roll out Park and Ride in 2005. We've had a climate emergency declared years ago now, absolutely years ago now, and a biodiversity, and we're still looking at traffic unsustainably in Galway with no bold measures. I have absolutely no confidence that the NTA are going to carry out a feasibility study for light rail because they're clearly on record for saying it won't suit Galway. The people of Galway have led us, as you well know. 22,000 people signed a petition imploring the Minister at the time just to carry out a feasibility study. We cannot blame motorists if we don't give them alternatives. We've got to lift the traffic on the road. We're getting bogged down, and I'm a cyclist, in the minutiae of small cycling little stretches without looking at the overall plan of a sustainable city with sustainable transport, and people will move if we provide that.
Thanks, Deputy. Final response, Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy. Look, I share the frustration in relation to progress in relation to public transport options within Galway, but there has been, I suppose, in relation to, the cross-city corridor, Salmon Weir Bridge, there's movement now in relation to Bus Connects, but it does need to continue and to move faster in relation to this. As I say, the NTA are going to be presenting that strategy to both councils in July, that's my understanding, in relation to the park and ride sites, and that feasibility study for light rail will be done as part of the overall framework for the Galway transport strategy. And again, that will ensure that it's looking at that multimodal perspective and an integrated approach, including an overall land use plan.